class, my name is Rhonda White, and I want to welcome you to week 5 of Learn, Grow, Eat, Go recipe demonstration. This week we're going to be making a garden skillet sizzle. So to get started on our recipe, I'm going to show y'all what we've used this week. We're going to be using a green zucchini squash and yellow zucchini squash. We're also going to be using these grape tomatoes. And then we're going to be using bell peppers. And bell peppers, I don't know if y'all know, but they come in 4 different colors. So your traditional color is your green bell pepper, but they also come in a pretty yellow, a red, and an orange color. And I think if y'all taste the difference in these, the yellow and the orange and the red bell pepper have a much sweeter flavor than the green bell pepper. All of these vegetables combined, all 3 of them, are very, very high in vitamin C, which we've been talking about the nutrition each week on the recipes that we've been making. And if you'll remember, the vitamin C helps when we cut our fingers, it helps heal our wounds, and it also helps with our infection. Another thing we're going to be making once we get those vegetables cooked is we're going to grate some fresh Parmesan cheese and sprinkle on top, and we're going to be using a light Italian dressing to season it with. This is a very yummy recipe. So before I show y'all how I chop these vegetables, I want to show y'all I've already chopped them all up and put them in our skillet to get them cooking. It takes about 10 minutes to cook, which is not very long at all. So I'm going to set that aside and start with our zucchini. So first of all, you'll notice it's got a kind of a top to the zucchini right there that we're going to slice off, and then it's got the bottom of the zucchini where there used to be a bloom on the plant. And so we're going to just take our knife and our cutting board and slice the top of that off and set it aside. And then I'm going to slice it in pretty thick chunks. If you can kind of see, that's a pretty thick chunk there. And then I'm just going to quarter that. So I'm going to cut it in half. And then I'm going to cut it in half one more time. And that's what I did with all of this zucchini and the squash. So that's our zucchini. I'm going to set that aside in a bowl. Now this yellow squash, I'm going to do the exact same way. I'm just going to cut the top off because we don't eat that, and then I'm going to cut the end of it off and set that aside. And then I'm going to kind of slice that in thicker pieces, and then I'm just going to cut probably these smaller pieces in half, if you can see that right there. And then I'm going to set that aside. So this is a pretty easy dish to put together. Doesn't take very much time. Now I'm going to demonstrate on this green bell pepper. What you want to do is you want to cut the top out of this, and inside this pepper there are stems and what you call a membrane. So I'm just going to take my knife and run it across the top and kind of open it up. It's kind of like when you do a pumpkin, if y'all did any pumpkins for Halloween. So I'm just going to take the top off of that and discard that. And if you can see inside that, it's got all of this kind of white around. We want to get all of that off. Underneath that are the seeds to the bell pepper. So I'm going to take my knife and run it around the outside of the pepper. And I want to show y'all, there's all the seeds that come out of that bell pepper. And so you don't eat that part of the pepper. You just want the outside portion of the pepper. Next, I'm going to take a knife and I'm just going to slice this in half. And then I'm going to clean the rest of this white part out because we really don't want to eat that part of the pepper either. And then all I did was I took and I sliced, made pretty thick slices like this. And then after that we want to it's called coarsely chopped, so we want bigger pieces of our bell pepper. And I just lay that slice on the cutting board and then start slicing down until it's bigger pieces. Bell peppers are really good when you eat them fresh, or they're really good with a healthy vegetable dip. So I've got those sliced up. I'm going to put those in my bowl over here. And then I'm going to show you these grape tomatoes. The grape tomatoes are kind of named that way. They kind of look the shape of a grape. They're not round. They're kind of more oblong. And we're just going to take this and kind of quarter these tomatoes. I'm going to cut right down the middle. And then I'm going to cut that in half. And that is all I did. So it's pretty simple to put this recipe together. I'm going to set that aside now. What we used for this recipe was 1 whole zucchini. We used 1 whole squash And then we used a green bell pepper, a yellow bell pepper, a red one, and an orange one. And next, what we're gonna do is our vegetables over here are about done. So while I'm gonna stir these around just a minute, now we're gonna grate our Parmesan cheese. Normally, when you guys think of Parmesan cheese, you probably think of eating it on a pizza. It comes in a can, but you actually can buy the Parmesan cheese in a cube. And this is the shape of a triangle. So this is what it looks like when it's fresh before it's grated. So I'm gonna take my cheese grater right here and stand it up, and I'm just gonna push down on this cheese grater until we grate the cheese. And in our recipe, if you guys can look at your recipe, it calls for 1/4 or 1/4 of a cup of this Parmesan cheese. So I'm just gonna keep pressing down here until we get what we think is 1/4 of a cup. If y'all will remember, when we talk about math in cooking, remember what 1/4 or 1/4 is. So I want to ask y'all, how many fourths does it take to make a whole cup? If y'all can talk about that a minute. If we add a fourth plus a fourth, that's a half, 1/2. And if we add another fourth, that's called 3/4. And it takes one more fourth of a cup to have a whole cup. So you have 4/4 in 1 cup. I think we're getting pretty close here on getting our cheese grated. I'm going to set this over to the side and see, this is our 1/4 cup measuring cup. So I'm just going to take this cutting board. The neat thing about this is it rolls up kind of like a taco, so I can just kind of pour this cheese into that cup without even really touching it. Oh yes, and we've got a little bit more than 1/4 of a cup, so that's ready to go. I'm going to set our cheese off to the side. And then next, the recipe asks us, after this is cooked, that we're going to put them in a serving bowl. So I have a serving bowl right here. And we're going to scoop all these vegetables into this bowl. This really, really makes a pretty dish because you've got all your colors. All of the colors in vegetables, when they have a lot of color, they have a lot of vitamins. So we know this has got the orange and the yellow and the green, and it's just full of vitamin C. So I'm going to keep measuring, keep scooping out the vegetables. What we did here is it's called saute, which that's when you take a vegetable and you cook it in a little bit of oil until it kind of turns tender, and the color, it kind of changes where you can see through the vegetable kind of. So I'm going to get the rest of this out in my bowl. And we're almost there, guys. We've just about got it. You can see that this makes a lot. For one family, the recipe says that it makes 6 servings, and 1/2 cup is 1 serving. And so that's quite a bit. So next thing, if you'll notice on your recipe, the next thing we're going to do is it says to add the dressing. So we're going to take this salad dressing, we're going to shake it up to get it all mixed up together. And then it calls for 1/4 of a cup. 2 tablespoons, excuse me, it calls for 2 tablespoons. So we're going to get our tablespoon out, and I'm just going to measure out. If y'all help me count, this is 1 tablespoon. I'm going to drizzle that right over the top of that. And then we're going to add 1 more tablespoon. And we'll drizzle that again. Next, we're going to add our cheese to go on top of that. So I'm going to get our Parmesan cheese that we've already grated up, and we're going to sprinkle this on top. That is so pretty, if y'all can see that. Next, I'm going to kind of stir this up to mix it together. And that cheese is going to melt now that it's in the hot vegetables. I wish y'all could smell this, guys. It smells really yummy. This is a really good dish. It's very nutritious, and it's very simple to make. So now we've got that ready to serve with chicken or any kind of meat that y'all would want to serve that with. And we're through. That is all there is to this recipe. So real quick, I'm going to wrap up. If y'all will look at your recipe at the bottom, you've got your kitchen and math. It asks how many total calories are in one serving of this dish. So for 1/2 cup, if y'all will look on your nutrition facts label, find how many calories one serving is. So it's 70 calories for 1/2 cup of this dish. That is not many calories at all. Also, it asks if you have 2 servings, how many calories would that be? So 1 serving is 1/2 cup. That means you're going to double 1/2 cup, which would be 1 full cup. And y'all tell me how many calories that would be. So if you take 70 and multiply it by 2, that's 140 calories. The next one, it says if we needed to double the recipe for a party, how much Parmesan cheese would we need? So go up to your recipe and find out how much Parmesan cheese we used. We used 1/4 cup. If you multiply that by 2, you're going to get 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. So that is all we have today. It's been fun cooking with y'all, and I hope y'all have a great rest of the week, and we'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.